Welcome. Congratulations.
Great. Okay. So I'm gonna start on the assumption that everybody could hear me. Adam, thank you so much for overcoming the technical challenge. Mystified by WebEx. And
Okay.
let me start by welcoming everybody to Green Cities, Los Angeles. The talk will be by Adam Light, who you see to, I guess, my left on your screen. My name is Rick Bell, and I'm privileged to serve on the board of the Consortium for Sustainable Urbanization, which is one of the sponsors of this event. It's my pleasure to welcome you and talk a little bit about what we'll be doing, some of the logistical things, and then turn it over to Adam as quickly as possible. This is the sixth of a year-long First Thursday series of talks about sustainable cities around the world. We're talking with municipal leaders, people in government at a public agency or authority, and our efforts in these cities to work toward greater sustainability and sustainable urbanization. A couple of quick logistical issues. First, for those of you seeking AIA continuing education credits, thanks to the efforts of Perkins Eastman, those should be forthcoming. They're pending, is my understanding at the moment, but there'll be some information about how to self-report for those. The organizer of the series, as I said, is the Consortium for Sustainable Urbanization, which is a not-for-profit organization based in New York, but one that builds connections globally, particularly between the United Nations, the design professions, academia, and allied associations. The stated purpose of the consortium is to advocate for responsible design and planning, increasing awareness about emerging issues, and facilitating knowledge transfer between policymakers, urbanists, architects, and activists. And there should be a shorter elevator speech or stairway speech. We do so by catalyzing cooperation and collaboration. And at the same time, we promote the UN Sustainable Development Goals with particular emphasis on Goal 11, which of course is to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. We also advocate for the new urban agenda adopted in October of 2016 at the UN Habitat 3 meeting in Quito. Among its commitments are improving connectivity and supporting innovative and green initiatives and promoting safe, accessible, and green public spaces. I'd like to thank our partners in the Green Cities series, the UN Habitat Office in New York, the AIA New York chapter and its Committee on Planning and Urban Design, the UN Habitat Professional Forum, the NGO Committee on Sustainable Development in New York, the Center for Buildings, Infrastructure, and Public Space at Columbia University, the Creative Exchange Lab, Center for Architecture and Design in St. Louis, and importantly, Perkins Eastman for providing the platform for this series. I'd also like to give special thanks to Lance J. Brown, President of the Consortium for Sustainable Urbanization, for his leadership and for moderating the first three of the Green Cities talks. Videos of the prior speakers from New York, from Rio de Janeiro, from Barcelona, Paris, and last month from Tshwane in South Africa can all be seen on the CSU website, which is https:// for Sustainable Urbanization, spelled with a Z.org. Please visit that website to see our resources, publications, and upcoming events, including a job posting. And the next Green Cities talk information will be there shortly. It's to take place on Thursday, September 2nd at noon Eastern, when our speakers will be Ana Struna-Brega and Miran Gadcek from the city of Ljubljana in Slovenia. For today's program, please use the Q&A function to send me your questions. We'll get to as many of them as possible. And Adam, with your indulgence, let me do a very brief introduction, maybe improvise a little bit. The official bio says that Adam Light, AICP-CUD, is Senior Director of System-Wide Design for LA Metro, where he directs a team of planning and urban design professionals responsible for rail station architecture and urban design and best practices implementation. Prior to joining Metro, Adam served as urban design and planning lead for Toronto, Canada's Toronto-York Spadina subway extension, which opened in December of 2017. Adam was a major project planner, urban design, and Preservation Specialist and manager of the Northeast. It's the Downtown Neighborhood Planning Team for the San Francisco Planning Department for over a decade, from 1997 to 2008, and previously worked here in New York at the Department of City Planning's Transportation Planning Division, previously in Maryland at the City of Rockville Planning Department. He's been an avid city dweller, many different cities, it sounds like, and car-free transit rider for as long as anyone remembers. That's back into another century. I would add a personal note that Adam, from his work in New York at Columbus Circle to the wilds of Toronto, I hope to see some of that today if we have time, is one of the most creative and resourceful urban planners and urbanists I've ever met. I remember your talk at the AI convention in New York, and it was phenomenal. He makes impossible things happen despite hurdles of budget and buy-in. I was going to say bureaucracy, but I like bureaucrats. And is also a magician of air and light and time and space. So as an invocation for today's program, I'd like to quote a few lines from a poem by Charles Bukowski called Air and Light and Time and Space. Just 3 lines. You're going to create with a cat crawling up your back, while the whole city trembles in earthquakes, bombardment, flood, and fire. Air and light and time and space have nothing to do with it. Read the rest of the poem to find out what does. Without further ado, Adam, the floor is yours. If you can start sharing your screen, I'll get out of the way.
Well, thank you, Rick. I don't know if I can live up to that very gracious introduction. I do want to say anything I've accomplished in my career has been because of the wonderful teams that I've worked with. I have been very blessed to work with some of the finest, both young and well-seasoned professionals in North America. And so I want to acknowledge that nothing ever happens without a great team of people that you work with. And my work at LA Metro has been absolutely no exception to that. So I will share my screen and we'll start the presentation. Thank you very much, Rick. Okay.
There we go.
Can everyone see the screen? Rick, can you see the screen? Okay, great.
Yes, it's excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you again. Thank you so much, Rick, and thanks to the Consortium for Sustainable Urbanization for inviting me to speak. It's a great honor. I do appreciate it. So today I'll be talking about LA Metro's new system-wide station design standards and how those support sustainable urbanism in LA Metro. As LA urbanizes, moving more from a more suburban, urban form of development into a more urban development, and moves more towards transit and other sustainable forms of transportation away from the individual car. So who would have ever thought it would happen? But it is happening, and we're very excited about that. My group is part of a larger section of the planning department at LA Metro called Transit-Oriented Communities. And we look at every way to pull together the urban environment and develop it in such a way with our city partners and our neighborhood stakeholders to create true communities around transit corridors. And so without further ado, let's get into it. The LA Metro and the voters of Los Angeles County passed 2 measures over the past decade, and that's Measure R and Measure M. And basically the voters of Los Angeles voted to tax themselves to build transit infrastructure. So we've got 2 cents sales tax add-on to fund public transit over the next 4 years. And we're looking to spend $120 billion expanding our rail and bus rapid transit network, as well as improve our highway systems for high occupancy vehicle lanes and bus rapid transit all across the county. And currently we've got existing rail and BRT lines that have 113 stations and extend for over 130 miles. With our Measure R and M projects, we'll have anywhere from 181 to 191 stations, potentially more, and 218 miles of transit corridors. This is just a very sort of cartoonish map just to give you a really quick idea of the extent of the transit system that we're building across LA County. It doesn't include everything, but just to give you an idea. Metro has a long-range plan, a strategic plan called Metro's Vision 2028. And today, there are 5 goals to that plan. And today we're focusing on the second goal, which is to deliver outstanding trip experiences for users of the transportation system. So that if we don't get people on transit, it's not going to help our environment, and it's not going to help people get to where they want to go. So we want to make sure we're taking people where they need to go in the best way possible on a state-of-the-art system. There's a number of things that we're working on now. We just transitioned from a color-based line naming convention to letters. We wanted to emulate New York City in that way, and we know you've got a great system of naming your lines. So as our system is growing, we've adopted that. We've also got quite a number of new Measure R and M transit corridors opening in the next 6 to 7 years in time for the LA Olympics and to better serve our existing residents and visitors that come there on a regular basis. Metro has a new focus on equity and customer experience, making sure that we are serving the folks in our county that need the transportation the most, who are the most vulnerable, that we're supporting and helping the economic development of equity-focused communities. And we're doing that by providing a better state-of-the-art customer experience. That's where our team comes in. And this just gives you a really quick timeline of how we developed our station design standards in Metro over the years. The key is in 2012, we worked with architectural firm Johnson Fain here in Los Angeles to develop a kit-aparts streamlined architectural language for Metro stations. And in 2018, the board adopted a policy to direct staff and all of our projects to follow that standard to ensure that we have stations that are state-of-the-art and that serve our customers the best. Currently, we've got approximately 50 to 60 new stations under construction, and that are applying the kit-aparts design elements and materials. So the reason we developed it is because on Los Angeles' system, we have a very exuberant collection of architectural styles. And this just shows a few of those at Redondo Beach, a station that looks like a wave. And in Chinatown, a pagoda-style shelter, and out in East LA, sculptural elements that mimic palm trees and other elements that are in the community. So in trying to maintain all of these different architectural styles, we had trouble keeping up with different elements, architectural elements and finishes. We also had station platform designs that resulted in dark areas and isolated spaces that our customers don't really feel that safe in. A lot of our elements, signage and equipment was hard to maintain and to keep up to date. So we wanted to move to a more modular system. And the idea with our system-wide design goals is that we push design excellence, we raise the bar in design, we improve the ability of our agency to maintain our stations at a high quality, and that we streamline our station architecture so it's easy to recognize from a distance, it's easy to move through, it's intuitive, and just creating a better user-friendly experience for anyone using our stations. So what we did was we looked at global best practices around the world, in DC, in New York, across Europe, in Asia, and we found some commonalities on the best station architecture and best practices around the world. And what we learned from these best practices is that the materials you use in a station obviously have to be durable. They have to be flexible to be used in different ways for different station types and different ridership numbers and different communities. They also have to be accessible. The people who rely on our system the most need to be able to access the station and access the trains. All of that is for nothing if we are not able to maintain it. And what we also learned is that the best stations are well integrated. All of the features that are and customer touch points are well integrated into the station architecture. And ultimately, it's got to be cost effective to design, to build, to operate, and to maintain. So what we found through this best practices is that there's 3 basic materials that are found in the best state-of-the-art transit stations, and that's architecturally finished concrete, brushed stainless steel, and structural glass. But we wanted to put a design together that actually reflected LA and the unique things about our community. We wanted a light and air and openness feeling to our stations so that people can enjoy our climate, and but that also protects riders who are waiting on a train from our hotter months, our hotter temperatures and direct sunlight. We want to enjoy that climate, but we also have to provide some protection from it. And we wanted to focus on the health, well-being, and optimism of Los Angeles, and encouraging people to take transit to get there by alternative means such as walking and bicycling and rolling, and other modes of sustainable transportation. So in order to do that, the principles that we honed in on is that our stations are safe, smart, clean, and green. We've got open lines of sight. We've got state-of-the-art technologies and smart design that make our stations easy to navigate. We can keep our stations clean and well-maintained because we use high-performance materials and integrated features that are not just dropped and plopped in different locations, and that our stations are sustainable. Using those high-performance materials means we have to replace materials less, and using sustainable landscaping materials also contribute to the health of the environment. So in terms of our principles, we have consistent architecture and signage that's easy to recognize station to station, but we provide variability to each station through art and landscaping. So our art program ties each station to the culture of its surrounding community, and the landscaping is tailored to each microclimate that we have in LA. If you're at the ocean, it's a lot different climate than if you're in the San Fernando or San Gabriel valleys, where it's much more dry and hot. So this is just to show you some photographs of how we put this kit of parts together: the glass, the concrete, and the stainless steel. This is a rendering of a subway station entrance. We have a bunch of these under construction right now along the Wilshire Boulevard corridor, downtown, and along Crenshaw Boulevard. So this uses the glass panel system and to construct an entry pavilion. And the same type of materials are used for the elevator accessible entrance. We use stainless steel for our bike racks, for the enclosure that secures the station, for the columns. And then we use a 3-toned concrete pattern for the paving of the plazas. What we found is that over time, it's very difficult to keep up individual pavers or very intricate patterns of paving. So we went to a randomized 3-tone gray concrete paving pattern that, so long as it's patched in a regular rectangular shape, future repairs to the plaza surface are camouflaged through that randomized pattern. So this is a close-up, and you can see here the art glass panels that we provide at the entrance to our underground stations. And this helps welcome people to the community as they exit the station, as well as immerse our riders in art as they go down into the underground station. So this is coming out of the station, gives you an idea of what these stations will feel like as people are entering the community. There's these large art pieces that can either be Venetian art glass or glass tiles and glass panels above that to bring more light and air into the station. So these are just some photographs of some of the art pieces that we've got in our stations. These are porcelain steel enameled art panels that are part of our at-grade stations, which I'll show you some renderings of here shortly. And this is on our new Crenshaw line that will take people to the airport in Los Angeles. This is a picture of another underground station on our Crenshaw line, and this is the new art program at the Lamert Park Station. So it's a very colorful, beautiful art piece that will welcome people to the community and instill a sense of pride in the surrounding community and the artists that come from this area. This is a picture of 3 different underground stations showing Venetian art glass murals. And they're immersive art pieces that are on the concourse of the stations. They're at our Expo Crenshaw station. Pictured to the right is the Martin Luther King Jr. station, and it has interwoven into it words from Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. So these art pieces are meant to tie the station to the community and immerse our customers in beautiful art. This is a rendering of our at-grade stations, and again, we're using the kit of parts with the stainless steel and the glass panels. To the right of the rendering, we're using that same panelized glass panel system. It's a fritted glass that provides shade. So depending on where you are in the county, that frit may be more dense depending on how hot the climate is and how much density of shading we need. You can also see we've got art panels that are integrated into the architecture and welcome people to the station. They are out of the touch zone to prevent vandalism, and they're highly visible to the surrounding community. So these stations become art pieces and architectural pieces within the midst of the community. So we're really excited about these new at-grade stations. You can also see the stainless steel ticketing structure, which if you look at it close up, streamlines all of the equipment that people need to ride the system, from navigation to next train arrival to the ticket vending machines, customer assistance telephones, and static map cases, as well as integrated touch screens that allow people to navigate the system. We wanted that in a streamlined enclosure so that we don't have places for trash to gather, for people to stash things, and we just wanted a much more state-of-the-art appearance to the entrance of the station. These are some renderings of the Crenshaw stations, both the underground and an elevated station, as well as you just saw an at-grade rendering. And this is just to show you, our team looks at everything from the overall planning of the corridor down to the details of how things are installed in place. This just shows some mock-ups of the 3-tone concrete paving and the integrated LED lighting fixtures that are in the outriggers that either support the canopy or provide lighting on the portions of the canopy of the platform that don't have a canopy. And this is to show you some of our new downtown stations that are under construction and should open next year. This shows how the kit of parts can be put together in different configurations to respond to site conditions. These stations don't have concourses for the most part because of the shallowness of the alignment through downtown. So we had to put a lot of the customer amenities for these underground stations at grade. And so we were able to use the kit of parts to create a different configuration. And these renderings show what the new purple line, or D line, as we're now calling it, along the Wilshire corridor will look like the subway station entrances. This is all along Wilshire Boulevard and will extend from the current terminus of the D line in Koreatown all the way out to Westwood, to UCLA and the Veterans Hospital, going through Beverly Hills and Century City, as well as the Miracle Mile. So with our design standards, it's a living document. And so we want to continually upgrade and update what we're doing. And so our team led an effort to develop integrated station design solutions along with our leads from each of our agencies, departments, from architecture and engineering, who was a very close working partner with us, Aspect Davidian, many of you may know. We worked very closely with him to develop these new standards and design solutions, as well as our sustainability department, our arts and design department, operations and maintenance, program management, all of that. So what we wanted to do is make sure that this effort was coordinated, because so often in agencies, you have different people in different departments coming up with design standards or solutions without good holistic coordination. We also wanted these solutions to be flexible so that we can implement at current stations as well as new stations. We also wanted to make sure that they meet requirements that are currently in place by government agencies, but that we also anticipate in the future changing. We wanted them to be consistent in terms of placement and materials so that they pick up a consistent and cohesive architectural language, and that they're innovative and sustainable across time, and that they're as good tomorrow as they are today. So we looked at global best practices around the world: London, Nuremberg, Santiago, Chile, and Hong Kong, and many other cities, to look at how the best designed stations and how well they are streamlined, how that can apply to the metro system. So in looking at all of the design elements, we had about 13 different design elements we were looking at updating or adding to our design standards. And about 5 of those really focused on sustainability, because not only is transit itself sustainable, but we want our stations and everything we build to reflect the highest level of sustainability that we can support as an agency. So furnishing, acoustics and noise, landscaping, lighting, and solar panels were all major efforts in terms of making our station environments more sustainable. This is just to show you some of the furnishing elements that we developed through this project. These are our new benches and trash cans. The benches have only 2 points of contact with the floor. It maximizes seating and comfort. They're contoured to be more comfortable. They're also transparent, so we can see if someone stashes something that's unsafe in the station underneath a bench. They're easy to clean under, they're easy to move and replace, but they're highly durable as they're stainless steel, and they don't need painting, or and they're easy to repair. The seats themselves are modular and can be easily replaced 1 seat at a time as necessary. The trash cans are designed to have doors that make it easy for our maintenance staff to just pull the can out and the bag out and push it back in and secure the the trash can. And it has a small opening to prevent people from rummaging through or dumping their household trash in our trash cans. It also has a mesh feature that makes it easy for robot scanners and different things to scan for bombs and that sort of thing. And it's on a pedestal to make it easy to mop around. With our landscaping, we pushed for California native species that are tailored to each microclimate in the county to provide beauty to our station plazas, as well as shading where our customers need it while they're transferring to other modes of transportation, such as bus or pickup and drop off. And this shows you a typical layout of a station plaza where we have shade trees at the edges next to the sidewalk where people will be waiting at bus stops, but also ornamental landscaping at the rear that doesn't provide as much shade to discourage folks from camping out, but also provides a visual cue from a distance where our stations, as we have used California canyon palms as signifiers of station locations since we built the E-line out to Santa Monica a number of years ago. Our new station plaza designs also have stormwater capture areas. And again, we use California native species or non-native species that are non-invasive and drought tolerant. We also looked at station lighting, the most high energy efficient fixtures that we could find that are durable, that are flush mounted to ceilings to avoid places for dirt and dust to gather or birds to perch. We also have developed a design standard for our plaza lighting that makes it very easy for our maintenance staff to just get a ladder and change out the fixture, but reflectors above that provide a soft, even lighting for the plaza surface. We've also been looking at integrating solar panels into our kit of parts so that the glass panels on our canopies could be substituted with glass solar panels. So we've been working very closely with our sustainability department and Gensler and Arup architects to develop a system of solar panels that's modular and that can be easily installed and integrated into our canopy designs. Solar panels that will be beautiful, provide shade, as well as generate sustainable energy. This shows you the new location of our Purple Line or D-Line station in Beverly Hills. It's how it currently looks with the construction fencing. And this is what it will look like in the future, integrating all of those elements from the Integrated Station Design Solutions project and visualizing what that will look like with the sustainable landscaping and new customer features such as touchscreens and our new signage standards. We're also looking at what we can do to update our existing stations. So we took all of the integrated station design solutions and used our busiest station, Metro Center, 7th Street Metro Center Station, as a canvas to apply all of these design solutions. So this is the major entrance. You can see it's sort of a dark, worn station. This station has not been holistically upgraded since 1990 when it opened. So it's in need of repair, particularly looking to the Olympics. What would this look like if we applied all of these different new design standards? So we worked with Gensler and Arup architects as well as Kilograph. They do digital modeling, 3D modeling of both interior and exterior architectural renderings. And this is what it would look like. You can see we've chosen a black terrazzo floor with stainless steel tactile wayfinding, panelized wall systems. The panels are removable so that you can run conduit, integrate new equipment. We've got a flush panelized ceiling with integrated lighting that's light colored. The walls are light, the ceiling is light, and the floor is dark to provide visual contrast and a better feeling for the space. It also helps our sight impaired customers move through the spaces easily. This is our light rail platform at 7th and Metro. And this is what it would look like applying that new standard. You can see the terrazzo flooring, the stainless steel train door markers, and new signage and new real-time information. This is our heavy rail platform for the B and D lines with the new application of the furnishings, the flooring, all of those elements, the customer information telephone and the digital touchscreens all integrated together into an environment that's much more pleasant to be in, that's much more secure, easier to use, more comfortable. And this is similar to what the Beverly Hills station will look like on the interior. Again, applying those integrated station design solutions, and we're working right now with the projects to see which one of these new elements we can integrate into their current construction contracts. This is one of our freeway stations on the 105 station, and what it would look like if we introduced sound walls and new public art and lighting. Right now, these stations are extremely noisy, and we're looking at ways to improve the experience at these stations. This is one of our BRT stations out in the San Fernando Valley, and utilizing the new sustainable landscaping, the new paving, and the new tactile wayfinding to improve overall customer experience at these stations. So we also, when we're looking at stations, we look at how we can use the property around it that we end up purchasing for construction laydown areas and that sort of thing to create transit-oriented communities. And this is just I'm just going to run you through about 3 of these projects. This is in North Hollywood, where we're right now getting ready to build a development that will have between 1,250 and 1,500 housing units, with 20% of those being permanently affordable, a substantial amount of retail and office space, a lot of new public open space. And this will be replacing what's now a large commuter parking lot. We'll be making improvements to the adjacent BRT station and connections to the subway station facilities. If you've been to Hollywood and Vine, in the heart of Hollywood, you may have seen the W Hotel and some surrounding residential buildings. That was a Metro joint development project that was built right over the station. We built 375 residential units, with 20% of those affordable, and a 305-room W Hotel. This is a development that we did a number of years ago at Wilshire in Vermont, where we had 449 residential units, 20% affordable, ground floor retail, and 2 integrated station entrances. There's a really nice public open space and art pieces that go with this development, and some of our colleagues at work actually live here, so we're very proud of this project. We currently have some other projects that are underdeveloped in Royal Heights and East LA. These are 100% affordable projects. And they provide improved public open space and community gardens. So we're very excited about these as well. You may have heard about the airport metro connector station that is going to tie the metro and regional bus systems and our light rail system into a new people mover that will take airport workers and passengers to and from the airport and connect them to the transit system. So these images were developed by Gruen and Grimshaw Architects, and we've been working closely with them. We see this sort of as our Union Station West. And it integrates a lot of sustainable elements, a large bike hub, sustainable landscaping, a lot of canopies for cooling, and also to help with sound attenuation with the planes flying overhead. This is the interior of the space that lets natural light in, but filters it to keep things cool and to provide some sound attenuation as well. And this is a bird's eye view of the facility. You're looking west towards the airport, right north is to your right. And you can see we've got a large stormwater management area where we're also integrating solar panels and using sustainable materials, both landscaping and high performance materials for a station that's easy to maintain and pleasant to be in. We've also been working with cities for years at LA Metro. This is downtown Long Beach, that our first line that we ever built, the A line, built a downtown transit mall in coordination with the city of Long Beach. Later there were new bus canopies added, and there's a brand new city bike hub that's been designed as well. And we've just updated all of our stations along the A line to improve customer experience from Long Beach all the way to downtown Los Angeles. This is in Culver City on our newer E line, and our TOC joint development team worked with property owners in two cities, this stylish city of LA and Culver City, to develop a mixed-use project that includes HBO headquarters, apartment units, and a hotel, as well as new public open space that tie in directly to the station. We also work closely with downtown Santa Monica on the E line to develop a urban design aesthetic that will connect riders from the beach and shopping in downtown Santa Monica to the system. And this has been a very successful station, and it's highly used by tourists and people who live in the county who like to access the beach and the shopping in Santa Monica. So that kind of wraps up the LA portion of my presentation. Would be happy to take questions or discussion. I also have some information on Toronto, which took a very different approach on a recent project, but we can talk about that time permitting.
Thank you, Adam. Great presentation, and I'd love to see the Toronto images. Maybe they could be in response to a particular question from either members of the audience or in our discussion. I'm astounded by many things in your presentation, including your opening discussion of the finances. 120 billion capital plan is phenomenal. The MTA in New York has something like a 54.8 billion capital plan for the foreseeable future, 2020 to 2024, but it's not necessarily completely funded. The issues of funding and governance are bedeviling in New York, where the state has a lot to say about it. With county-based, LA County transit, and your links to as you're describing, to other municipalities, maybe Long Beach or Santa Monica. Culver City is independent. Is any of their funding from the state, or is it all raised within the limits of the city of Los Angeles, or the county rather?
Yeah, it is county-based. The sales tax revenue is county. It's within the county. We do also, that $120 billion does also rely on state and federal funding. And it's a combination of those things, and it is spread out over 40 years. Given the infrastructure that we have to build to cover this huge county, it's not near enough. It really isn't. It sounds like a lot of money, but there's so many things that need to be built that our county needs, that we'd like to have, that just meeting what we're required to do through measures R and M is a heavy lift, and we're working very hard on that. And as everyone knows, construction costs have been going through the roof, so we're a little concerned about that as well. But it's a real challenge, but we're very optimistic and we're very excited about the projects that we're building.
Yeah, I won't ask the dollar per mile number. We, certainly looked a lot in New York about comparisons with Paris and London and other cities around the world in terms of how costly it is for a variety of reasons to build in New York. That may not be the case in LA, where I take it a little bit more. The system is at grade, at least stations are. There's less tunneling. But the scale, I mean, just to make the comparison of New York on scale, you're talking about going from 113 stations to as many as 191. And New York, I think, depending how you count, has 424 or 471 stations, depending whether you count transfers or not. Many of which have been there forever. I mean, the ability to add new stations has been quite difficult in New York, although the state's modernization plan is comparable. I think I saw one of our canopies in your system. I'm going to switch, because we are talking about environmental issues today, from the fiscal to a question from a member of the audience, Burkhart, who works at MTA Transit, and asked the questions that are on my mind and probably many in the audience about material selection, environmental properties. To paraphrase the question, glass is not all that environmentally friendly. Are you looking at carbon emissions, recyclability? What are the attributes, in material selection? You had mentioned lessons learned from best practices that talked about, among other things, durability. But if you could focus a little bit more on material issues and what some of the trade-offs were as you were looking, a lot at stainless and concrete, also not that environmentally great.
Right. Well, as discussed at the beginning, we were having a lot of problems with durability. And if the materials you use don't hold up or don't function as intended, they end up in the landfill. So there is that trade-off between a material that the production of it may not be as sustainable as another. It may not be made out of recycled materials. We do look at using recycled materials where it makes sense to. For instance, in the terrazzo flooring that we're looking at recycled glass and mother of pearl and different recycled elements that we can put into that aggregate to create a durable material that lasts as well. And looking at the glass panels, that's why we're looking at integrating solar panels. And right now we're looking at solar panel types that are the most sustainable or the least damaging to the environment in terms of their protection. So we want, again, we focus in on the durability and the cost effectiveness of it, because if we're not able to build these lines in a cost-effective manner, they're not going to get built, and we're not going to be delivering that transit that helps the environment. So it's those trade-offs you make. Are you going to build a cost-effective system that looks great, that people want to take, and that has durable materials that you don't have to constantly replace? Those are the decisions that and the trade-off decisions that we make.
Yeah. Going to another question from a member of the audience, Yutaka Takiara. Yes, about seismic considerations. Actually, it has three cogent questions, but the first one is about seismic, which wasn't a word that I saw in the presentation. Are there, apart from meeting California code, which is more stringent than New York or elsewhere in the country, were there particular considerations in seismic design?
In terms of the kit of parts, of course, everything that we design has to meet seismic standards, of course, and we want to make sure things are secure and that are safe for our customers. But focusing in specifically on seismic has not been one of our biggest focuses in terms of developing the kit of parts. We do leave that to the engineers, to our design builders, to ensure that they're meeting, the highest seismic standards, everything from our tunnels to our stations.
Um, you know, as you've been seeing globally, certainly in New York and California, the impact of the pandemic on ridership, on the ability to assure public confidence in the safety, health and safety of the system has led to not only financial woes for many transit authorities across the nation, including New York, but also concerns about the psychology of how do you get people out of cars when they have that option. Congestion pricing in New York is not a response to the pandemic. We've been talking about it for a long time. Maybe finally will happen. But California has notoriously been, Los Angeles at the top of the list, car culture. The beauty of the stations and the attributes of the system that you're describing are allure. Does the pandemic work against that, or is congestion on the freeways just so bad that this is a response to how public health and safety and psychological well-being are assured? What's been the impact of coronavirus in LA?
Yeah. Well, last year it was tremendous because our funding, we rely heavily on sales tax revenue as well as our to a lesser extent, our revenue from fares. So when the coronavirus hit, we did not collect fares on the buses to protect the bus drivers. All entries to the buses were at the rear. So we didn't collect fares on the buses, and people were riding the buses more than the trains. In fact, 80% of our ridership is on bus, not rail. So we definitely took hits both in terms of the economy slowing down and the loss of tax revenue and the loss of ridership. We had lost, I think, at the peak of, or the early days of the shutdown, I think we were down 90%. I think we're back up in the 60% range, somewhere in there. But we are looking at restoring our full service in September. And we've also realigned our bus service through our Better Bus initiative to make that bus service better for our customers so we can get back on track. What we've seen is with gentrification and a lot of other things in the county, we've seen our transit dependent population being pushed further out into the county. So we've got to adjust our transit service to better serve those customers, and we've been working on that. So we think that we hope that in the future, we're hoping all of this stuff is just a distant memory soon. And that people will get back to doing things. We're seeing people go back to restaurants and clubs and bars and different places. And we're also seeing our ridership pick up on our system. And we think that if we can give people the kind of transit experience and service that they need, they'll use it. The difference is it going to take me, 2 hours by transit to get across the county or 30 minutes in my car? Well, it's going to depend on the time of day for one thing, but we are building lines such as the Purple Line that are going to get people halfway across the county from downtown all the way out to almost Santa Monica in 20 to 25 minutes guaranteed. So that's rush hour. Rush hour can take you 2 hours to do that. So a lot of these new lines and a more integrated system is going to get more people on the system, we believe.
Yeah. And, and you started, as you mentioned gentrification, you started by talking about the system's new focus on equity and as well as customer experience. We've talked a lot about the attributes that, characterize customer experience. In terms of equity, is it just greater access to a network that gets people to work sooner or to school sooner or is it about community development?
Community development. It's about investing in our communities and looking at how we serve our transit dependent riders. There's a lot of focus with a lot of transit agencies on how do we get choice riders back into the system. But really, as an agency, we have to focus on the people who rely on our system every single day. A single mom who's working 2 jobs and gets off the late shift and has to stand in a dark station that's not very welcoming or not very secure. We don't want that on our system. We want everybody who needs transit, and we want to focus on them first, whether they have mobility issues that don't allow them to drive a car, whether they can't afford a car, whether they choose, they don't want to be in a situation where they're driving everywhere. They don't like driving, being in traffic. We want those folks to have a system that works for them. And that's what equity is about. It's also investing in communities in Los Angeles that have had historic underinvestment. So our team right now, we're working on a small scale retail program to integrate small scale retail that will serve our passengers, but that will also provide opportunity for local entrepreneurs who might not otherwise have that opportunity, and to provide services that a local community might not have. So we're looking at all of those type of things and testing out new amenities and new services that will benefit our customers through a test station initiative. So working on that as well.
The issue of scale is something that links New York and LA as the two largest cities in the U.S. is saying, and the number of new stations, both under construction and in planning, is phenomenal from any measure. One aspect of that are the 2028 Paralympic Games coming, and the initiative of 28 by 28. How is that going? How important were the Olympics as a catalyst for discussion of how to unclog freeways?
Yeah, well, I think the Olympics has given us sort of a tangible goal out there to reach, but at the end of the day, our focus is serving the people of this county, the people who live, work, and visit here on a regular basis that need this system. And definitely the Olympics is a big push to improve our system. Absolutely. We want to have a good system that when the world comes to visit Los Angeles, they're like, wow, this place has really transformed itself since 1984, in the last Olympics, and you can actually get around easily by transit. We definitely want that. But our investments are for the people of this county over the long term. And so we are optimistic about what we're going to be able to accomplish by 2028, but we also realize our focus needs to be on the people who live here.
My last question might be about comparables. You mentioned and had a slide that showed images from a bunch of other cities, including London, Nuremberg, and Santiago, among others. And I know that when I travel with my students from Columbia's engineering school to London and Paris and Los Angeles, we've looked hard, and with you a year and a half ago at system changes, station design. Cities learn from each other. You had mentioned when we were talking briefly yesterday that your experience in Toronto was formative in terms of some of the environmental initiatives that you're able to bring with you to LA. Are there particular images, whether from Will Alsop's projects or others in Toronto, that you'd like to close with?
Yeah, sure. Let me just pull you through.
Not many. It's 12:59, and I'd like to sum it up.
Great. We'll go through those. Sorry for clicking through this. So in Toronto, it was a very different approach. There was the northwest portion of the city, and this is a map that shows the Spadina subway extension, or the Line 1 extension, as it's now called. Toronto also renamed its lines, and they went to a numbering system rather than a lettering system. So it's Line 1, and it extends into a very suburban area of the city of Toronto and into this suburban city of Vaughan. And the idea with this line was to create spectacular stations that formed new community centers, a new focus to build transit-oriented communities all along this line. In an area that was low density, it was sprawl development, and the idea is we've got a lot of growth in Toronto, so we want to concentrate it along transit, and these new stations and this new line can help spur that development. The City of Toronto also has an amazing sustainability program and requirements that they apply to all city agencies, which the Toronto Transit Commission is a city agency. everything from green parking lots and standards for developing that to the requirement for green roofs. And you can see some of these renderings. If you're in a high rise in Toronto, which a third of the population lives in high rises in Toronto, you look down and you're starting to see green roofs pop up everywhere. So these stations were no exception. This is the Downsview Park Station. It's on an old Army base, and that's being redeveloped as a national urban park and housing for about 30,000 people and I think about 10 million square feet of commercial space. So this new station would provide a subway station that interacts with the regional rail, commuter rail system, and having this sort of blend in and look almost like a hillside within the park. And this is the built function. You can see it changes color during the seasons, and it's truly a beautiful station. This is a Will Alsop station. The previous station was designed by ADIS. I believe they're out of Dubai. This was developed by Will Alsop, and this is at Finch West, and this connects to a new light rail line that's under construction, and it has a large bus terminal as well. So the idea with these stations was to allow in as much natural light as you can and to get it down into the station and to integrate vibrant public art as part of the customer experience. This is the station in the middle of York University. It's a large university in Canada. If you're not familiar with 50,000 students, has a very good business school. This is right in the middle of the quad, and it's integrated into the site with a landscaped amphitheater shaped entry that allows natural light and natural materials visibly into the station environment. This is another Will Alsop design at the north end of the York University campus that uses Corten steel and a lot of glass to allow natural light into the station environment. It's a really beautiful station. And like Will Alsop, is a very exuberant, quirky design. And this is the bus terminal, which has a green roof. And this is another green roof that was recently installed on a new on an old TTC station, Eglinton West. This is a commuter station that was part of the line extension in the middle of a couple of freeways and large arterial. Not a lot of opportunity to walk into the station. So it's a commuter station that's bringing regional buses in and providing commuter parking using green parking standards. This was also designed by ADIS, and it's the bus terminals on top with the subway station underneath. This is seen from an arterial road going by the station. And this is a station in Vaughan, Ontario, the suburb just north of Toronto. They're building an entire new downtown with about 25,000 housing units and millions and millions of space of commercial space, parks, schools, and institutions. This was designed by Grimshaw, and using local landscaping, sustainable, and a lot of natural light that gets into the station. This is the station entrance looking up at the public art piece that is the soffit of the canopy over the station entrance. This just to show you a very different approach from the Kidder Parks approach that looks at where sustainability truly ties into this.
Well, I want to thank you, Adam, and I'd say we went over time a little bit, but we started a few minutes late. So I want to thank you for inspiring talk and also for these great images from both LA and Toronto. I guess we got a kind of a twofer, with Toronto added in, it just shows that we have a lot to learn from other cities, including what you and your colleagues have achieved in greening the transit system in LA, from the solar canopies for shading, greater transparency, the multimodal bike hubs, such as the one we saw in Culver City and elsewhere, and the use of native plants in site landscaping, which is something that we don't often have the opportunity to do in New York. If ridership is to come back to pre-pandemic levels, the quality of the ride must complement the health safety of the system. That's clear. So again, thanks, Adam, and thanks to all of you who participated today from near and far, from far away as Finland and as close as Brooklyn. Please join us next month on Thursday, September 2nd at noon Eastern, as I said, for our discussions with Slovenian architect and planners Anna Struna-Breger and Miran Gacek, who's Director of Planning in Ljubljana. One last thing, the Consortium for Sustainable Urbanization is hiring. We're looking for a part-time remote working executive administrator to advance our goals. There's a posting on the CSU website, which I gave before, but it's basically Consortium for Sustainable Urbanization.org, or you can contact us directly at consortiumsu apply@gmail.com, or contact me. We're looking to interview people very quickly. So if you or anyone you know might be interested in working with us, please do get in touch. With that, again, thank you all for participating. And Adam, I can't thank you enough for joining us in these the doldrums of August, and good luck with the projects that you're leading and the system redesign that is in play. Again, thank you all.
Thank you, Rick, and we encourage people to come out to LA and visit. Give us a shout if we can. We'll show you around. Highly encourage you to go to Toronto to see these beautiful stations. Joanna Curvin and Vincenzo Luzzo and Kevin Rockman worked very hard on this project, as well as hundreds of others. And see these stations in person. The photos do not do them justice.
Right. Good. See you soon. Bye, Adam. Bye, everybody.
Well done, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thanks again, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you all. This was really fun. It's a real honor to be here today. So thank you again.
It's a beautiful presentation. Of course, you present an enviable system, especially for those of us who have one that's basically a constant retrofit to try and get there. But these are great.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of that for us too. And thank you very much.
Stay well.
Okay, you too.
Ciao.
Hello.